Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Rainieri, and today's guest is the author of Born in OC, which features 50 remarkable individuals whose stories capture the culture, creativity, and entrepreneurial spirit of Orange County, and is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers nationwide. She is also the founder of Greer's OC, where she writes all about fashion, dining, and trends. Thank you so much for being here today, Greer Wylder.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, Chelsea.
It's nice to meet you too. And I'm so excited to dive into your book. I've read so much about it. But I would love to start at the very beginning of your story. And you grew up in Reno. So what brought you out to Orange County?
Basically, my mom, she met someone that was from California. And I think she was interested in possibly getting all of us. I'm one of four. And we moved from Reno, Nevada to Newport Beach I think it was about 1972. So
Oh,
been
wow.
here ever since, basically. Yes.
Amazing. Do you have any favorite memories of growing up here that you can share?
I mean, so many memories. When I moved here, it felt like more like a laid back beach town sort of.
Oh,
And I put in my book, like, it's very, very funny. I remember we would walk on the beach and there would just be sand dollars everywhere. And it just seemed like so magical. And so it wasn't as built up as it is now. And it definitely wasn't as fancy. So
yeah.
we would go to this roller rink on Newport Boulevard that we loved. I don't know. Oh, we would go to the Balboa Fun Zone. That was a lot of fun. We just had, I don't know, growing up here was really, really fun with the beaches and the bay. It was just a blast. So we had
Yeah.
a good
Oh,
time. Good time.
I remember I grew up in Huntington Beach, and I remember before like Pacific City was there and before the Strand was there, and it did feel much more of a laid back town. And I remember the sand dollars. I forgot. We don't really have those anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to them. I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on with that. Yeah. Also, I mean, occasionally we would see abalone, and that never happens anymore either.
No.
Yeah. Oh, and
Mhm.
also, of course, this was the 70s, so we rode our bikes everywhere. There was no e-bikes, which I really enjoyed. So
Yeah.
it was just like, I don't know, it's always seemed very safe and fun to grow up in this area. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, you went to Cal State Long Beach, where you majored in journalism and political science. So what
Mhm.
initially drew you to journalism?
Basically, what happened was when I entered into school, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't good in math. I knew I wasn't good in science. I loved reading newspapers. I loved reading magazines. And so I just kind of chose that major because of those reasons. And I
Mhm.
was at the time, I was more interested in politics than I am now. And so that was fun at the time. It's not something I would do again, but I loved Long Beach State. I can't say enough good things about it. So yeah, it was fun.
Aw.
It was a good I felt like it was a good education too. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, after college, you worked as a columnist at the Times community newspaper. So how
mhm.
did you land this role, and can you share a bit about what it was like working at a newspaper then?
Well, oh my gosh. Basically, I started working there because my husband at the time was the editor. And there was a popular column in the paper prior to me getting the job. And the woman who was writing it, she just wanted more and more money. And as you probably know, working for a publication, you usually don't make more and more and more money. It's just, you're kind of tapped out at a certain amount. And I said, well, gosh, I know I can do that. I know I can write that column, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. I was at another publication here in Orange County. There was a whole group of newspapers, South County Metro, Newport Center News. There was another news group that I had worked for prior, but I was a young mom, and I just started writing for the Daily Pilot. And then at one point, there were more papers that were added in. There was the Huntington Beach paper. There was a Laguna Beach paper. At one point, there was one up in Santa Monica because at that time, the LA Times was buying up like local newspapers. So I kind of took my formula and wrote it for different publications. So that's how
Oh,
that happened.
cool. Yeah, I
So
read it. You had columns called like there was one called Best Buys, and then also an Ask Greer column, which sounds so fun. What were
yes.
these columns like? What did you write about in these?
Well, okay, so Best Buys was basically what I'm doing right now, and Best Buys was writing about writing about local stores that were opening, events, new restaurants, and then people just kind of thought I knew everything about this area. So they would email me and say, Greer, like I'm getting married and or I want to propose to my girlfriend and I don't know where I should propose to her, or I'm looking for a gift for my mother-in-law or something. So people are always asking me questions. They assumed I knew a lot about this area. So I was spending a lot of my time answering these questions. And then Coast Magazine at the time, they said, we want you to write a column. And I said, I should do an Ask Greer column because I get asked all these questions. But wait, I've got to back up. Before I get into how the paper was back then, that was really pre-internet. So when we were getting press releases, they were like paper press releases.
What?
We didn't even have email. We didn't, it was a totally different time. And of course we had computers, but the internet was not like it is today. You could not look up things. People were constantly on the phone. I mean, it was wild. I used to get letters. I would get stacks of mail. So that's completely changed, as you know. So
Yeah.
it's really wild. Yeah. Just
That
how
sounds really fun
just the
though.
technology changed so much because I started out at the paper, I think it was in 1992. Yeah. So it was before all this technology took off. There was at the paper, they actually had like a dark room, for photos. Like it
Uh-huh.
wasn't digital. It was all film. So it was really crazy how much it's changed. So
Yeah, I can't
right.
imagine functioning like working without an email.
I know, or just the ability to look up things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really different.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was
The
so much
actor
fun. Being in the newsroom was so much fun. So,
Yeah,
at the
I'm
same time.
assuming, like, I literally just picture, like, a movie, like, fast-paced environment, like, everybody on the phone and, like, deadlines and
Yeah, and the police radio was always going, so you could hear, like,
What?
what's going on, what crime was happening or yeah, it was fun. It was had a lot of energy, I would say.
Yeah, it sounds
Cool,
like
yeah.
it. Well, in 2006, you started Greer's OC, to fast forward a
Mhm.
little bit. What
Uh-huh.
inspired you to start your website?
Well, basically what happened was, at in 2005, I had been writing 2 columns a week. I was writing my Best Buys, I was also the dining columnist. And
Mhm.
and unfortunately, in November of 2005, one of my 4 sons was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and that, like, really changed our whole life. Like, it was very complicated, like, trying to figure out how to take care of him, because you have to learn like overnight,
Yeah,
food and insulin. And when you have type 1 diabetes, you have to always be checking your blood glucose, and you have to give yourself injections of insulin because you can't live without it. And so I was a nervous wreck. And so I went to my editor and I said, I cannot write 2 columns a week right now. I need to take care of my son and learn how to, handle his disease or manage it. And my editor at the LA Times said, well, this is probably not good timing to tell you this, but we are making changes at the paper and you are not part of the change. And I had already been working there for 14 years. And it was just like something that I enjoyed doing. I was also a mom of 4 boys, and I felt like I could handle being a mother and doing these columns. And it was just kind of a good like work-life balance. And
mhm.
then to lose my job, I was just like, wow, I did not see that coming because I was actually very popular too. But, it's all about finances and making money. So they decided to cut me. And so I was very down. And then I thought about it a few weeks later and I thought, gosh, I have such a following. And this is really before social media. Um, and so many people like enjoyed my column, and I thought I can just do what I was doing because I had so many contacts without the paper. So I built I designed with a web designer, Greer's OC. And the reason I called it Greer's OC is because people know me by my name. It's very
Mhm.
different. And it's like what I like in Orange County. So I would never write anything negative. So, and I just started like covering Orange County. But what I liked about it was I didn't have to limit myself to just Costa Mesa or Newport Beach or Laguna. I could write about something in Orange or something, in Laguna Hills or anywhere outside of the area. So I had more control and I really liked that. And so, yeah, that's how I started it. And I also started the daily dose of OC, which
Mhm.
was the email newsletter in conjunction with the website. And then it was funny when the Daily Pilot found out what I was doing, they were like, "What is Greer doing?" Like they could not believe it. And so they hired me back. And
No way.
yeah, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll work for you, but I want more money." And because I had heard, I don't know if it's true, that they had lost a lot of advertisers because they were like, "What happened to Greer?" Advertisers, and I mean, people were upset. So I said, "I will come back, but I'm not gonna give you any original content." So I would just copy and paste what I had already written in my website, and it was great.
And you got more money? That's so
Yeah, and I got
nice.
more
Oh my
money. So it
god.
was nice. But that went on for a few years, and then eventually, they did just have to cut me because of budgets. It's just what happens,
Uh,
So
yeah, well, just 2 years after you started your business, the recession hit. So what were some of the challenges that you had to face, during those times?
so many things. So one thing was when 2007, 2008, the real estate, all of that crashed.
Mhm.
And with my at this point, I had hired a partner, and we were building this big real estate section on Greer's OC. And we had spent so much money designing it because
Oh,
really this is before, like now you can just build a website. But back then, you couldn't, I mean, you could if you knew what you were doing, but we didn't know what we were doing. So we had to hire someone to build this beautiful website. We did this luxury real estate section, and we sold, or she sold, because she sold things, sold a whole section with all of the real estate, like the best realtors in Orange County. And then that happened. And then everyone said, we are not doing this. Like it just like fell overnight. Like I could
oh,
not believe it. So that was really hard. And I did at that point, I had like a staff. I had an office. I had like not a secretary, but someone like handled the office. Like we had people, we had advertisers, or sorry, salespeople. We had like writers. We had a whole thing. And so I
oh,
really had to
man.
get back. It was crazy. That was hard. That was hard.
That sounds really
But yeah,
hard. How did
I
you
never
recoup that?
I never launched the real estate section since.
Oh,
So
no.
yeah, but
But it's
it
still such a successful website, and, like, how did you come back from that?
I mean, just cutting things. Like eventually I got rid of my office. I had to get rid of a lot of people. I mean, I just had to do that to survive. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's always just publications in general. I mean, it is a lot of them got a business, as you know. It's
Mhm.
just it's different. It's hard. It's different, and it's also for a long time it was hard convincing people to just be online. And that's changing a lot, but it was not easy. It is,
Yeah,
but I mean, that's just the way business is.
definitely, yeah.
So.
Well, in 2007, you became a board member at JDRF, so can you talk a bit about how you became involved with this nonprofit and also what they do?
Well, so JDRF now is called Breakthrough T1D. It just
Oh,
changed
wow.
its name like maybe 6 months ago or so. But at the time, my son, who had type 1 diabetes, it was very scary. And when he was diagnosed, he was a teenager. And when that I later found out that's like one of the hardest ages to be diagnosed, because he remembers not having uh, type 1 diabetes. So it was a
Right.
big learning curve for him. And I think he struggled a lot. And he struggled a lot. We all struggled a lot. So I thought, I need help. I need like a support system. I need other parents. What happened was one day I just emailed JDRF because I didn't know who they were, and I just said help in my email subject line, help. And someone called me. Actually, her name is Michelle Popoff, and she is the executive director right now. She called me within minutes, and she's like, "What's going on?" I told her I'm very worried about my son. He's being seen at Chalk, and they're great, but it's hard. And so she invited me in, and they're just a really great support system. I joined the board, and basically they are on the quest to cure type 1 diabetes, and not just cure it, but manage people so that when it is cured, they'll be healthy while it's cured. So they're the biggest global funder of research for type 1 diabetes. So it's really a wonderful organization. And I was on the board, I think I did 2 terms. I've chaired the gala, I think in 2014, I can't remember. But yeah, right this very second, I'm not on the board, but I'm always involved in some way, or I try to be. So it's like they always say, like, it's a group like you never want to be involved with, but once you are, like, they're such loving and wonderful people. There's some saying like that, something like that, where it's like a club you don't want to be in, but when you're in it, it's pretty great. So
Yeah. Well, you're also working on a documentary as the executive producer. Is it about type 1 diabetes as well?
yeah, that already came out. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it came out, I think it came out 2 years ago, actually, the human trial. And yeah, so that's already came out. And I had met documentary filmmakers when I was on the board, and I knew that I just liked their energy and their story. They wanted to portray on film what it's like to have type 1 diabetes. People don't know. So what they did was they followed people in a clinical trial, and to see what it's like to actually have the disease, and how hard the doctors and scientists all over the world are trying to uh, cure this type 1 diabetes. So yeah, now it's available. You can watch it anywhere. It's everywhere. So yeah, I think it came out 2 years ago, to be honest. Yes. So
Wow, it sounds like a really interesting documentary.
it was really good. It was really good. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was really good. It was at the Newport Beach Film Festival 2 years ago. So
Oh, wow, amazing.
yes.
Well, what inspired you to write your book, Born in OC?
So basically, what happened was I have really liked the concept Born in OC for so many years. I think I've owned the domain. I've had the Instagram for at least a decade. I just liked the idea of things that businesses, ideas, culture that started here in Orange County, because so many things have started here in Orange County. And so one day, it was early January 2020, I was on a run. And when I go on runs, because I like to go on long distance runs. I've run like 36 marathons, and and all of a sudden I just had this idea, like, oh my gosh, I need to write a book. I've been writing for so long. I do tons of social media also for small businesses and nonprofits, and I do Greer's OC, but it all is just fleeting, nothing. It's just like you can work so hard on something, but it's not tangible.
Mhm.
And like I said to another reporter, it's like one of my best friends is an artist, and she can work on a painting and look at it or hold it or touch it and be like, I did this, but I never have anything like that in my life that I can hold
Yeah.
or be proud of. And so I thought, I've got to write a book. And in my career, which is a long time now, I've been doing what I've been doing for almost, or like 30 years, really. I've met so many interesting people, not always people that I've featured in my website, but I've just met a lot of really inspiring people. Also, the other reason was when I grew up here in Newport Beach, my mom was a single mom. To be honest, she really didn't work. And I felt like I didn't have like a mentor or someone that like look up to, like in business, like how I should be doing things. And I I would like, my goal is that younger people hopefully will, or young adults will read this book, be inspired by these people, because I am sure that there are people growing up right now that feel the same as I did as a teenager. Like, what the heck should I do with my life?
Yeah.
There's my career. Like, it can be daunting. It can be like, what direction should I be going in? And all of these people in the book are so inspirational. So basically, I just was on a run in early January 2020, and I thought, I've got to do this. And I just started thinking, and I was like, I have to interview Kobe Bryant. Like, he was like my first person I thought I've got to interview him. And then, like 2 weeks later, he had that horrible
Right.
accident. It was just like, but anyways, that's really how it all started. So it's two
Wow.
reasons. I just felt like it was time to write a book, and I wanted younger people to be inspired by these people. And yeah, I've never written a book, so it was a big goal of mine. So I'm so
Yeah, that's an
grateful.
incredible accomplishment. Well, what was some
Yeah.
of the criteria for each person to be selected?
I mean, that is a very good question. I think the criteria is that they had to have been in whatever career they're in, do something incredible. A lot of them have the same common denominator, is that they are giving back to the community in some way, or they've achieved something that's different than other people. I guess
Mhm.
that would be the criteria. I mean, I did try to get other people in the book. Um, I tried to get some very famous people in the book, which was very difficult, but that wasn't really the goal of my book, because a lot of the people in that book are people no one would know about, but to me, they're like equally as important, you know?
Yeah. I saw that you
Like,
featured, sorry.
oh, sorry for,
Oh, no,
oh,
no,
well,
you
so for instance, there's a artist in the book. He works at Disney now, um, but I met him years ago, and he paintings at auctions. He also has type 1 diabetes, and he has raised over $1 million for type 1 diabetes, just auctioning off these beautiful paintings. I mean, and he's not even someone anyone would even know about. His name is Zoe Stevens, but he's a very talented artist. And I just think he's really interesting and cool, So
Yeah.
also, everybody in the book, they talk about Orange County and like what it means to them. So that's what I like about it too.
Yeah. I saw that, is Kitty Canada one of the people that you featured?
Yes. Do
Yeah,
you know
I featured her. Yes, my mom took me to the Find when I moved out for the first time, like, when I was, like, 23, and we found, like, this beautiful, chair and this mirror, and I would go back for years later, and they would still remember that I made that purchase,
That is
and
so cool.
they're
Kitty
just
is
very
so
kind.
great. Yeah, and she has
Yeah.
such a cool story because she had like a corporate job, and I think she worked for Ford, and she had a very like high level corporate stressful job. And she said that on her break or days off, she would go antiquing or to estate sales. She started collecting things, and she just had this huge passion for furniture and like uh, just all kinds of home accessories and art. So, and one day she just took a leap of faith and she started the Fine Consignments. It was like just a little part of another boutique, and she just grew and grew and grew. So I think she celebrated, I think it was over 10 years, not too long ago. She's been doing this, maybe longer. I should know. But yeah, now she has 2 locations, and she's doing really great. And I like
Wow.
her story also because she's, when you are buying consignment stores or consignment things, it is much better for the environment, since it's
Mhm.
all being repurposed or reused. And so I love that story, part of it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did you notice, like, a common denominator with all these successful people? Like, I don't know, a common thread at all?
I mean, just that all of the people seemed very positive, for
Mm.
one. They all are very hard workers, but they all seem to be, like, giving back. I would say that would be the common denominator in all of them. So, and they have a
Interesting.
lot of discipline, I would say. So,
Yeah.
so,
Definitely. Well, is there, like, a particularly inspiring person that or someone that you're particularly excited about to share?
let me think. I do. I loved, AJ Kawamura. I don't know if you haven't read the book yet. He is he is a urban farmer. He's like a 3rd generation urban farmer from Orange County, but
Wow.
he is just if you read all that he's involved in, it's so many things, but he has basically one of the things he has a farm, a farm with his family, but he also started the Food and Farm Lab in Irvine at the Great Park, and you
Yeah.
go there. Yeah. Oh, you already know about that? I mean, it's run also with solutions for urban agriculture, but you can go there and learn like how to plant a sustainable garden in your yard, and how to like basically live off your land and have grow your own produce, and that is really, really cool. I mean, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like a little of what he does. He's so involved in farming and the environment. Like he's goes all over the world and does talks and studies, and he's practically like a doctor for farming.
Oh
He's a
my
very
God.
smart man, super, super inspirational. So I love that. I love that.
Wow. That
Yeah.
sounds really incredible.
Yeah.
Well, what's something about writing a book that you didn't expect or other aspiring authors maybe would not expect when it came down to it?
I mean, so I learned a lot. There's 2 different ways to write a book. Of course, you can have a publisher, which is
Mhm.
really nice, or you can self-publish. And I learned, the pros and cons. I talked to a lot of friends that have done both. And the reason I chose self-publishing is I did want control. I did want to name my book. I did want to design the cover and have like total control over who was in the book and what it looked like. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's just people. So one woman said to me recently, she goes, self-publishing can be a scam as well, because you can really get taken advantage of if you don't know what you're doing. Because at one point I did hire another publisher. I'm not saying she was a scam person, but I did feel like she wasn't really doing her job in the right way. And
Mm.
she was charging me way too much money, because when you don't know what you don't know, you can get taken advantage of. And thankfully, at one point I decided I'm not going to write my book, because I had to get rid of that publisher. But thankfully I did find another publisher, Archway Publishing, and they are a division of Simon and Schuster, and they were very good to work for and work with. But it's funny, they told me, you are going to get people are going to reach out to you, and you're going to get scammed all the time. And it was like the day
What?
my book came out, I mean, I was getting phone calls and emails, and we think your book's going to be a bestseller. We're going to help you have it become a bestseller. And it was like, all they want is money. They're all so many scam artists. It happens every day. It's really crazy. I didn't know that part of publishing, that there's a lot of scam artists. But
Yeah, what?
we are in the golden age of scam artists,
Yeah.
all day
Yeah,
long.
we really are. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something to learn about. They're all saying we can make your book a bestseller, or we're gonna get you into the LA Times Book Festival. Meanwhile, like, I can get myself into the LA Times Book Festival. You just have to pay. It's just hysterical. So that's
Yeah, that's really good to know.
yeah, I
Um,
know.
yeah. So you mentioned, wanting to inspire young people with your book, but what other impacts do you hope that Born in OC makes?
I mean, that is a good question. What other impacts? Um, I don't know. Maybe maybe other people will be inspired to write a book similar to this. That would
Yeah.
be kind of cool. And maybe I say, like, when I had one child, I said, "I'm never gonna have another child," because it was so hard, and then I had 4 children. So, who knows, maybe I will write another book, because I read, in the LA Times or the Register about these people that are doing amazing things, and a lot of them are very young, and I'm like, "That'd be so cool to do a book about young people that are doing amazing things." I just heard about
Yeah.
this girl, I think she's like a teenager in Orange County, and her goal is to cure Alzheimer's. I'm like, "Oh my god, that is so cool,"
Yeah.
she wants to be a scientist that cure or a doctor that cures Alzheimer's. And just like young people, I think are super inspirational too. And that would be really fun. I don't know. So maybe have someone else do a book or, talk about what amazing things people are doing. I think it's just a nice thing to know about because, I don't know. It's just, uh, I guess that's it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love that. Well, is there anything listeners should keep an eye out for that coming up in your career? Anything else you want to shout out?
I mean, I am sort of making a career change, but I haven't made an announcement yet. But I
Okay.
am going to be doing something different probably at the end of this year. It requires doing a lot of studying, so I'm trying to do that. But yeah, I will be changing part of my career, always doing Careers OC, probably always doing social media, but there's something else I'm interested in doing. But in the near future, I am going to record my audiobook. So I'll be doing that
Oh,
in about
how
a week or two.
fun.
Yeah, because audiobooks are so popular. So I'm going to be doing that. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds so fun. I listen to audiobooks too, and so, like, I do a mix of audio and reading, and
Yeah.
every time I listen to the audiobook, I'm like, "This seems like such a fun job to be able to do this."
Well, yeah. And also, audiobooks are more popular right now than,
Yeah.
regular books. So I have to do that. So that'll be another learning curve too. How
Yeah.
to record an audiobook. Do a
Well,
good job.
yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, we have 3 final questions for you that we call the thoughtful 3.
Okay.
So, first, have you ever struggled with self-doubt? And if you have, how do you work through it?
I mean, I think that's common for everyone. I think even
Mhm.
the most successful people, if you really ask them, they do have self-doubt. But I just try to, I mean, I try not to let that overtake me. Then I just try to, like, throughout my day, if I have any self-doubt, I just try to like get through whatever I'm doing right now, like write a list. I'm all about writing lists and trying to get through my list. So in that way, I mean, just being able to accomplish something can help with self-doubt. I believe. So
Yeah, totally. I also am a huge list maker, so I
yes.
agree with that. What would you say to someone listening who's an inspiring author but doesn't know where to start?
I would definitely ask around of other people that have written books. I think that's basically what I did. I contacted a few friends. One of my friends is Gustavo Ariano. He is in my book as well. I think he's written 3 or 4 books now. He is a reporter at the LA Times, but he's written quite a few books. And so I just asked his advice, and he gave me great advice. So if you can find a friend or someone that's written a book, you can get a lot of good feedback.
Yeah,
So,
was there some advice that he mentioned that you can share?
I mean, basically, he just gave me the pros and cons of doing self-publishing versus
Mm.
publishing.
Yeah,
So, and that was really helpful. Yeah, that was really, really great. So, yeah.
yeah. And then lastly, what advice do you have for when someone is experiencing writer's block or just isn't feeling particularly inspired?
That's a hard one. I just think getting up, if you're feeling that way, and I think everyone does, is you just have to get up and just do something different for a bit.
Mhm.
Walk around or maybe go for a walk or get away from your computer. Also think like what I like to do is go on long runs. I also like to swim, and I swim for a long time. I think like doing an activity that isn't related to computers or your phone, that it gives you like your time to think about things. So that I think is very helpful. Do something different that isn't work related, or even driving sometimes, if that
Yeah,
things will like come to your mind. I think that is very helpful.
that's so
So
true. I have, like, epiphanies when I'm, like, doing spin class or Pilates or something. I'm like, "Oh, there
yes,
it is." Like, what
yes,
the heck?
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
weird. Yeah,
exactly. Or I mean, some people do the meditating or praying. I mean, I think all of that is very helpful. So
definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. You've inspired me to, like, go check out your book and learn about all these amazing people, and
thank you
I'm
so
very
much.
excited to read it.
Thank you. My only kind of regret is I didn't put a list of who is in my book in the very beginning. I kind of regret that, but at the same time, I did it on purpose because I wanted people to read it from cover to cover. just like picking the people they know and reading people. So that's just
Yeah, I like that. That's a good, I mean, honestly, I
just
like it without the list.
just when if you do pick it up, you can kind of notice that. But yeah, so
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
of course, thank you, Chelsea. It was really nice meeting you. I hope you have a great day and an even happier new year.
You too.